Welcome to an unusual evening edition of Counterpoints. I'm Ryan Grimm. We're going to be joined by Emily Jashinsky from Milwaukee at the Republican National Convention. Emily, how are things going out there?
Well, they're going, Ryan. I've been talking to a lot of people about the J.D. Vance pick, which I know we can discuss on this show. Got some interviews with folks. Just talked to one woman, local. She's selling dresses here. Right when I asked her how things are going, she said the energy is high. She was really excited. They're doing you can hear they're doing some sound tests behind me. Tom Cotton just recited the Gettysburg Address. So things are proceeding apace.
Well, I thought that we were both going to have our solidarity bandages for Trump. Todos somos Trump, but since you don't have yours, I guess I'm going to take mine off here. But I still wish him well in his a full earful recovery. How are people feeling? I want to get to some of the speeches from last night, and we're going to talk about J.D. Vance's keynote speech tonight. But I want to hear just what the vibe is among people first. Around the Trump assassination attempt, are you hearing anything different there on the ground than we're hearing just generally from people around the country?
Yeah, that is really the big question. I think probably the one thing on everybody's mind is what Donald Trump is going to say on Thursday, because he said so little. He's put out some posts on Truth Social, but he's really taken a back step or a back seat to this. Not Trump himself. Everything is about Trump. There's Trump posters everywhere. People I already saw are selling T-shirts of the fist raised in the air moment from Saturday. But him himself, he really hasn't been in front of cameras doing a lot of talking himself. And I think that's really intentional. And I think one of the big ongoing questions is how Donald Trump, in his big primetime moment, is actually going to handle what happened to him, the trauma that just as a human being would affect anybody. And we still don't have an answer to that, except for kind of reading body language. He's been, I was watching him last night. And I was looking right down at him from the press gallery, and he was stoic, I think is the best word I would use to describe him. He wasn't giving a lot of reaction. He wasn't, applauding at lines that I felt were written to be applauded at by Donald Trump. He was sitting there stoically, smiling a little bit, but just not giving too much away. And I think it's intentional.
His first entry into the arena, he looked somber and subdued. It's sort of the first time, since he's been a national political figure, I think that people are having a hard time reading him. He's the most kind of wears everything on his sleeve kind of person. Is that unsettling to people, or are they excited about the possibility of a new Trump? Are they nervous about where this is going? How are people feeling about it?
I just talked to one congressman who said he doesn't want a new Trump, a Republican Congressman Ben Cline from Virginia, who I said, what are we expecting to hear from Donald Trump tomorrow? And he said, I don't want a new Trump. He said, it would change anyone, basically. We can roll the clip. But, I don't think people are unsettled. I think the kinds of people who are coming here to the RNC are the kinds of people who had already seen from their perspective this man be convicted of 34 felony charges. They've already seen him go through hell and come out as they see it on top. So I think this is the demographic of people that already felt like they had walked through the fire with Donald Trump. So there's more, I think, confidence, and there's a sense of weight and gravity to everything that probably wouldn't have been here without Saturday. But this is a group of people that already was, hardcore Trump supporters, lovers, loyalists, and that I think that's the same as it would have been anyway.
And they got to see Nikki Haley bending the knee last night. Speaking of Trump supporters, so let's roll a little bit of her speech. I want to hear your reaction to how she was received.
President Trump asked me to speak to this convention in the name of unity. It was a gracious invitation, and I was happy to accept. I'll start by making one thing perfectly clear. Donald Trump has my strong endorsement, period.
So how was Haley received, and how did Haley's How are Haley's delegates interacting with the Trump delegates?
I haven't actually seen any interactions between the Haley delegates and the Trump delegates, and have seen absolutely no evidence of any rift that currently exists in the Republican Party, except for, as I've heard a couple of people talk about, J.D. Vance. I had one strategist tell me that in a story that I wrote for Unheard, so they had some harsh words, let's say, for J.D. Vance. But other than that, it has been Trump, Trump, Trump. Not a lot of remaining questions. Very different from how things were in 2016. Obviously, Ryan, you will remember that. And so Nikki Haley took the stage yesterday. Again, I was watching here in the convention center. Boos. It was a mix of boos and cheers. And then the boos were kind of drowned out by the cheers. And she was ultimately quite well received. She started very intentionally by saying that she was here at the invitation of Donald Trump. And she accepted. She didn't want it to look like she had begged for a speaking slot. She wanted it to be very clear that Donald Trump had given her this speaking slot. She was followed right afterwards by Ron DeSantis.
And so let's roll a little bit of Ron DeSantis with his trademark humor. Here's Florida Governor DeSantis.
My fellow Republicans, let's send Joe Biden back to his basement, and let's send Donald Trump back to the White House. Life was more affordable when Donald Trump was president. Our border was safer under the Trump administration, and our country was respected when Donald Trump was our commander-in-chief. After all, if not us, who? And if not now, when? Let's make the 45th president of the United States the 47th president of the United States. Let's elect Republicans up and down the ballot, and let's heed the call of our party's nominee to fight, fight, fight for these United States. Thank you. God bless you. Let's win in November. Thank you so much.
So unfortunately, the Florida governor couldn't quite get out of that manly joke without a voice crack. But otherwise, how did his speech land with people?
Really well. He was really well received. No boos at all for Ron DeSantis. Trump looked very pleased. There was one video going around online of Trump very much enjoying the Weekend at Bernie's joke that DeSantis made. But DeSantis was very, very forceful. And people were really loving what he had to say. And again, it was back-to-back, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis. And it was, in a sense, politically smart that they paired it that way, because it looked not just like, oh, hi, we love Nikki Haley, we love Ron DeSantis. It looked like, here is everybody rallying behind Donald Trump. This is the quote, unity show that the Trump campaign was presenting to everybody. And it was well received. Just some boos for Nikki Haley, but like I said, those were drowned out by cheers.
And so then Vivek, nobody gives a speech like Vivek. He came out on stage as well. Let's watch a little bit of him.
Our message to Black Americans is this. The media has tried to convince you for decades that Republicans don't care about your communities, but we do. We want for you what we want for every American: safe neighborhoods, clean streets, good jobs, a better life for your children, and a justice system that treats everyone equally, regardless of your skin color and regardless of your political beliefs. Our message to every legal immigrant in this country is this: you're like my parents. You deserve the opportunity to secure a better life for your children in America. But our message to illegal immigrants is also this: we will return you to your country of origin, not because you're all bad people, but because you broke the law. And the United States of America was founded on the rule of law. And our message to Gen Z is this: you're going to be the generation that actually saves this country. You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative. Say you want to get married, have kids, teach them to believe in God and pledge allegiance to their country.
So how was Ramaswamy received?
Extremely well, Ryan. I just keep going down the line here. But everyone is being well received in these primetime speeches. And, they've done rewriting. They've clearly done rewriting of these speeches since Saturday. And you could read something really cynical into that. That they had, Trump himself mentioned his speech for Thursday was going to be a, quote, barn burner, and he's ripped it up and come up with a new speech, which, again, everybody's waiting to hear. So you could say that maybe this was all toned down intentionally, or you could say that just, the trauma of what happened on Saturday would obviously change the convention no matter what. So it's probably a mix of both, to be quite honest, given that Trump himself was even saying that. But Vivek, I thought, was really interesting in making a clear pitch to millennials and Gen Z. Right after he made his clear pitch to millennials and Gen Z, Lee Greenwood took the stage, just a fountain of youth. And, it was a bunch of boomers kind of dancing on the convention floor to a rousing Lee Greenwood live performance. And, that's to be expected of any political party, that you're sort of torn between these two demographics. But I thought Vivek gave a very effective speech. He's liked by a lot of people. He's very well liked by a lot of people. There are a lot of delegates and the like, and a lot of talk that he's going to run for Senate in Ohio too.
And is there any chance that DeWine, you think, names him? It seems like if it's left to DeWine, like if he's not under pressure, there's zero chance he names him. But might be under pressure. I don't know what's the read there about that choice, or he would just run then, to replace him down the road.
Yeah, so I did see Mike DeWine here yesterday. He's making the rounds. I don't think there's any chance that he would appoint Vivek Ramaswamy to that Senate seat should Trump and Vance actually win. But I would imagine that Vivek would have a very good chance if he ran for that Senate seat of winning the Senate seat, even just based on the reaction to everybody here. The Ohio delegation, as J.D. Vance came into the convention center yesterday with all the pomp and circumstance, was doing the OHIO, arm signals, and were very enthusiastic about Vance. And Ohio is such an interesting state politically. They really like their own Ohio people. So I would think, Vivek Ramaswamy, he would seem to have a good chance, because he's really been out there about his love for Ohio. And I think people really like him here. People really like him in the conservative movement. Trump people like him. And he's interesting to people kind of across the aisle, too.
And what about the substance of the speeches, the theme being, crime and immigration? What'd you take away from, what the politics of that were?
Yeah, so the theme of the first night, as I know Sagar discussed, was, and you were there as well, make America wealthy again. And the theme of last night was make America safe again. And we're just kind of going down the line here this week. But what's interesting about that is the safety issue, the crime issue. I mean, they had an incredible speech from a woman who lost her son to fentanyl. I mean, it was incredible, and real stories of people who had lost loved ones to crime and drugs. And interestingly enough, when we're talking about Trump being sort of, what was the word you used? I really liked it, somber. Trump being somber, stoic, maybe a little lower key than you normally see Trump. He was most animated when those average people were sharing their stories, and it wasn't even close. So when normal Americans were sharing their personal stories of tragedy and loss to crime and drugs, Donald Trump was by far when he was most animated. He seemed to be enjoying those speeches the most, and more than any of the politicians, honestly. So I think you're still hearing this. The themes are just not compartmentalized because they're so on message, right? They're so on message about Bidenflation and Biden migrant crime every day. And so the compartmentalization is almost an afterthought, because right now Republicans are trying to be kind of transcendent and almost uninteresting, right? Like now Biden is kind of the chaos candidate, and they're trying to just stay on message, which is kind of a quick turn of events.
There was a little fun chaos on the floor this week. Didn't want to leave this segment without playing this clip that we've been graced with of Matt Gaetz taunting Kevin McCarthy. who was trying to do a News Nation interview, which is embarrassing enough in its own right. Let's roll this.
You would get booed off the stage.
Shut up, Gates. Don't be an asshole. Hey, don't be an asshole.
Dude, I don't even know who you are, man.
It doesn't fucking matter who I am. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah, I'm just standing here. So don't be honest.
So if I'm not Gates, I don't know if you could hear it there, but at one point he says to this guy who's telling him, don't be an a-hole, he says, I don't even know who you are, which is one of the most like jerk things to do. Like, who do you think you are? Like, to say, I don't know who you are. It doesn't matter who you are. You just, come on, get out, stop with this. But otherwise, kind of funny. What night are you speaking, Kevin? What night are you speaking? Really wanted to kind of rub salt in the wound. What did you make of that?
Matt Gaetz is really well liked here. Really, really well liked here. He was, I believe, last night actually in the Trump box with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, socializing with Trump's inner circle. So he's not relegated to the fringe here. That's for sure. He's someone who gets chased when he's out at the convention. People want to talk to him. People want to shake his hand, get selfies, and all of that. So I would probably argue that Matt Gaetz is more popular than Kevin McCarthy here, to be quite honest. Although I think, at least with people that aren't just the hardcore Republican demographic, Kevin McCarthy probably got the best of that exchange. If you saw the viral videos online of McCarthy just kind of batting him away like a gnat.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.